What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another review. This time we're taking a look at The Shawshank Redemption, written and directed by Frank Darabont, starring Tim Robbins and Morgan Freeman, based off the Stephen King short story of the same name. Okay, I'm going to make this review as short and sweet as I possibly can. The Shawshank Redemption is an excellent movie. This is how you do an adaptation of a Stephen King dramatic work. I never really thought Stephen King got enough credit for his dramatic works, and movies like The Shawshank Redemption pretty much nail the fact that Stephen King is one of the best novelists, not horror writers, one of the best novelists that was ever been born. The Shawshank Redemption has all the tropes of a Stephen King theme, and then some. But I never read the story. I'm trying my best to find it. I've only known the movie. So judging this as a movie itself, what can you say about The Shawshank Redemption that's not been said before? This movie is utterly fantastic. Fantastic. From a casting standpoint, Tim Robbins and Morgan Freeman fit their roles like a glove. The supporting cast that surrounds them is equally as strong. The overall production value of this movie is absolutely sensationally spectacular to look at. This movie goes through a variety of decades. It goes to the late 40s, and then it goes to the late 60s. And it follows the character of Andy Dufresne, who is pretty much our lead character. And he's sent to Shawshank prison because he is pretty much tried with the murder of his wife and his lover. Though it's revealed midway through the movie that he was actually framed for those murders. And once he finds out he gets framed for those murders, he kind of makes his great escape. But all throughout the movie leading up to that, I thought Tim Robbins was absolutely great as Andy Dufresne. At first, he's very, very timid and meek, but as he assimilates to Shawshank prison, and as he befriends, the character of Red and Red's little group, you see him become much more comfortable in Shawshank, and you see how, and the interactions between Andy and Red's friends has a good, strong sense of camaraderie to them, and they feel like lifelong friends too, whenever they have bantering and share scenes with one another. And to me, that's some of the best parts of this movie are Tim Robbins and Morgan Freeman, who I think have excellent on-screen chemistry together, and I buy them as being very lifelong friends as this movie progresses. Like I said, the supporting cast in this movie is just as great. You have actors like Bob Gunton and William Sadler. They play their roles absolutely spectacularly. You have James Whitmore, who plays this character of Brooks, and I like the character of Brooks. And this movie actually has a little bit of a segment dedicated to Brooks. After he gets released from prison, we see Brooks try to assimilate to a normal life, and that we see that since he's been in prison for 50 decades up to the start of this movie, he can't assimilate to a normal life, and he ends up killing himself, mainly because he's just lonely. He misses being in prison, and he misses being with his friends, because that's all he knew for a good chunk of his life. And the way Frank Darabont shot that segment, it's just so sad and just so depressing to see Brooks, who in prison was considered one of the elite, but in the real world, he's just another guy who, if you die, no one's going to care. And it's very, very sad, but beautifully acted by James Whitmore, who I thought did a fantastic job playing Brooks. And when he's in prison interacting with Red in the game, he gives off that grandfatherly type of feel, like that elder type of feel. And I really like that a lot. The character of Red is now Morgan Freeman the character of Red does a lot of narration. This movie's mostly told through a flashback so to speak of Red, through Red with narration, pretty much detailing certain moments that happened during Andy's time in prison. And Red himself has this little subplot where he keeps getting denied for parole, and he starts to question if he will end up like Brooks after hearing the story of Brooks. Like, would he kill himself? And we actually see Red get released from prison, and we see that he almost does it, but because he and Andy made a pact, Red does not do it, and he ends up finding Andy, who managed to escape his way to Mexico. And the movie does have a real satisfying ending with Red and Andy reuniting. It's really touching. It's really, really cool. So I like all that stuff. The stuff in between, aside from Red and Andy, is also really good stuff. I like this rivalry that develops between this warden, between this guard, played by Clancy Brown, who's very, very antagonistic towards everybody. There's this other subplot where this group of prisoners called the Sisters, led by the character of Boggs, played by Mark Ralston, are constantly harassing Andy and pretty much want to rape the man. And that's that. Luckily, the movie does not get to that point, but the movie kind of alludes to the fact that the sisters do get the upper hand on Andy a lot, pretty much when they viciously beat the shit out of him. And I think Mark Ralston, as the character of Boggs, does a good job at coming off as an intimidating, just slimy looking guy, prick, if you will. Good stuff. I like it a lot. Bob Gunton, who plays the warden, he comes across as just a very stern, manipulating, just prick of a guy. And when he finally kills and stuff at the end, you can't help but rejoice. Especially when he pretty much orchestrates the death of this character named Tommy, who actually is a witness and could have gotten Andy off the hook. And but in so doing so, Andy also kind of becomes a mentor to the Tommy character as he helps Tommy get his high school GED. And as a return, Tommy was going to give information that could be beneficial to Andy, but the warden has Andy killed. Mostly because Andy, during his time in prison, pretty much becomes the unofficial tax man for the warden and everyone at Shawshank. Pretty much Andy is a banker and he's really good at numbers, so they pretty much make him the unofficial tax man, if you will. So and the warden, also a man who has a lot of schemes and does a lot of stealing, doesn't want to lose his golden goose, if you will. So that's where he orchestrates the death of Tommy just to make sure Andy does not get off. And of course, this leads to Andy to want to get out of Shawshank even more because he knows the truth. So that stuff is all beautifully acted and all really, really well done. Whew. All right. Yeah, from an acting and story standpoint, this movie is fantastic. From a directorial standpoint, I think Frank Darabont did an absolutely fantastic job behind the director's chair. This movie has a very earnest tone to it. It's not goofy, corny, or cheesy. It has a very serious matureness to it. Frank Darabont's writing is very, very, very good and is equally just as strong as his directing. And Roger Deakins' cinematography of this movie, absolutely spectacular. Deakins captures the prison aesthetic so well. He makes Shawshank Prison look like the world's just most isolated place you'll ever see. He makes it look like a world all unto itself with its own set of rules. And I gotta commend Roger Deakins on brilliant cinematography for Shawshank Redemption. Alright. Okay, well, this review was all over the place, but I hope I got my points across and really illustrated just how much I love the Shawshank Redemption and why this movie to me is a perfect 10. If you have not seen the Shawshank Redemption at all, you need to see this movie. It is a must-see. If you have not seen the Shawshank Redemption in a long time, I say give it a rewatch because you owe it to yourself to just relive the experience on how to tell a great, fascinating, gripping, and overall emotional story. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the Shawshank Redemption. Let me know yours in the comment sections down below. Like the video and subscribe, and I'll check you back next time for more.